Welcome to today's Destination Unknown. I'm your host, Alyssa Hall. Well, today I had the bright idea at first that maybe I would try filming outside in the garden because today's subject is the equinox. And as you might remember, I did the solstice out in the garden. I was also outside for, I believe it was the Beltane ritual that we also talked about back in May. But I thought, oh, how nice. Let's do an end of season wrap up. And the truth of the matter is, nothing was going right filming outside. So, because conditions are a little easier to control, we're just going to default back here to where I'm used to talk to you about today, where we're going to talk about the equinox, the fall equinox. We're going to talk about Mabon. And we're going to talk about the Chinese Moon Festival. So, as you know, this month I've been looking a lot at a lot of the holidays that all kind of cluster up around each other from different world cultures, religions, places in the world, belief systems, all of that. I find that fascinating. And so I made it the focus of today's or this month's videos because they all were right on top of each other. So today we see a cluster right now of a couple different things that are happening. First of all, it's the harvest moon tonight. So the harvest moon, and we're going to talk about moons and their moon names here first. The harvest moon is tonight, and then the harvest moon itself is the kickoff. Sometimes it will happen before, during, or close to the equinox itself. So the equinox started on the 19th. Wait, is that right? Let me look at my notes here. And yeah, oh, actually, it's the Chinese Moon Festival that started on the 19th. That's why that date was staying in my brain. So let's talk about it. Let's break it all down. The equinox itself, as we know, that's an astrological as well as astronomical occurrence that happens. Right now we're balanced as far as the number of daylight hours and the number of evening hours, dark hours. And we're moving into the time of year, as we know, when it begins to be darker sooner, the sun rises later, and we have more dark hours coming up for the next 6 months until we reach the spring and the cycle reverses itself. So here we are right at that balancing point. And much like the last equinox where we talked about spring cleaning and balancing things and getting ready for the season to come, that was for celebrating and the harvest and all of those new ideas, or not the harvest, but the period of growth is what I'm trying to say, coming up in spring. We're at the end of that. Obviously, we're at the harvest now. And so hopefully all of those good intentions, those kind of things, this is a time, if you set those intentions back in the last equinox in the spring, take a moment to reflect on it. Did you find that balance that you were seeking? If not, this is the moment to again reset yourself. Of course, it's always balance that we hear again and again from so many of the masters of so many religions. They don't tell us to become wonderfully enlightened. That's the process that we get by becoming a balanced, energetic human being. So, with that in mind, here we are, and it's the equal number of daylight and dark hours. There's a spell that you can do that I had in my notes today, which symbolizes this exactly. So if you're looking for a time to build some mindfulness into your personal practice, and you're not going to participate in some of the other festivals and belief systems I'm going to talk about next, you can always have your own personal time with your candles or your own work, and I encourage you with that also. So what can you do? You have a white candle and a black candle that you might have for your altar. Do you need an altar? You can create an altar. In fact, altars might be a great idea for something coming up because, yeah, we've got a lot of that kind of work coming up with Dia de los Muertos and stuff coming up next month. But in any case, yes, so if you have an altar or at least a space that you dedicate for your meditation and study, you can create that space if you'd like by mindfully bringing together items that remind you of what you are looking to both encourage as well as to get rid of. So the white candle is going to, let me see, my keywords for the white one are what to invite, invoke, and to encourage. So what are those things that you want to invite, invoke, or encourage in your life? And then the black candle, of course, is the balance. What do you wish to eliminate, banish, or bind are the words that I wrote down there. So again, what are you looking to get rid of, to eliminate, to lessen the power or the influence in your life? Those concepts or people or situations can be represented in the black candle, which you might then put that intention in that candle, put your white intention being what you wish to draw more of, and then light both of those and sit with that. See what impressions might come to you during that candle meditation. That's one way you can celebrate. Of course, harvest time, being the harvest moon, is the time to go harvest. If you've done any gardening, I literally just harvest over the weekend. Got a great big stash of green beans and some pumpkins and stuff in this year's garden, which was cool. So if you have a garden, enjoy that. Take a moment to give thanks. Give thanks to yourself. I have to recognize this is the effort that I've been putting forth. Not only do I enjoy growing all of my plants in my garden, I am grateful for the bounty that they then provide me with. So I give thanks for that by mindfulness. So give a moment of thanks and awareness for the other things that you're thankful for, the bounty in your life. What have you harvested? What hard work have you put in recently that you're now able to hopefully garner some rewards from? Take a moment, because those moments, we don't always give those to us ourselves. I know I don't. So have a moment where you realize what your harvest is, so you have that thankfulness built into your ritual work as well. So let's talk about the harvest moon. I'm looking at my notes here, and of course we know many ancient cultures would name their moons. They would often name them either by crops or cycles, by the natural observances of what's going around them, like the harvest moon. Another name for the moons. Now, the harvest moon, like I said, that is the only one of the moons that gets named, full moons that gets named, that is dependent on the equinox. Not even the solstices or the other equinox, the spring equinox, have a moon that's tied to it. So harvest moon is dependent on falling the closest to the equinox. So as we know, tonight is our harvest moon, and Wednesday marks the beginning officially of our equinox. So that's the pairing this year, but sometimes that puts the moon closer to October, or maybe it lands in September. If the harvest moon is in October, then the September moon is called the corn moon. And that's where we were talking about natural harvests, natural occurrences, and them being named after that. Of course, Native American tribes, there are a lot of moons that their names are very specific as well. And then also the October moon. So if the harvest moon, like this month or this year, falls in September, then next month's moon will be called the Hunter's moon. Hunter's moon. Okay. All right, so there's that. A little bit about the moons, what the moons mean, and how they got that name. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's kind of a subject that there's not a lot about it, like enough to make an entire presentation about it. But I thought, oh, finding out how the moons got their names might be so interesting, because some of them are so like strawberry moon for June. But that's, again, a crop-related one. But I digress. So let's also talk about the Moon Festival. The Moon Festival, or sometimes called the Moon Cake Festival, happens over in China, and it's considered their second most important holiday, falling right behind New Year's Day for their observances as far as what's most auspicious and most important to their calendar. So the Moon or Mooncake Festival is a time, like I said, this year it will be falling on the 19th today, Monday, until the 21st. Or no, 19th was yesterday, wasn't it? Anyway, so here we are right in the middle of the Moon Festival. They also call it the Mid-Autumn Festival. And they celebrate it by either having a family reunion dinner. That's common, so that you bring your people back together. That's something we can all celebrate and appreciate. You might literally go appreciate the moon by spending time underneath the full moon during the Moon Festival and eating moon cakes. I love celebrations that involve eating food, especially sweet food. So often, as we know in Chinese belief, when you are eating sweet things, you are inviting that sweetness, good things to come into your life symbolically. And that's what we see here with the moon cakes. They are sweet, and they help represent also bringing in that auspiciousness and those good things, the blessings that come with the Mooncake Festival or the Moon Festival. So that's a really cool thing to know about. If you didn't know about it, I thought that was awesome and wanted to throw it in for today's discussion also. And last but not least is Mabon. Mabon is what they call for pagans and or Wiccans, depending on which label a person might prefer. Those are a belief system that's much more nature-based. They often go back to some of the European traditions. And again, some of those naming of the moon traditions might come from old European traditions, but they might also be a blending of some of the Native American traditions when we hear them as far as what's most commonly used today. There have been many other moon names over time, of course. So when it comes to Mabon, let's talk about that. So some of the traditional foods that you might eat to help celebrate, Mabon is again a time of harvest, of giving thanks, recognizing the hard work that's gone before you and the good things that have come to you, taking a moment to celebrate all of that work and that bounty that's coming in, hopefully at this time. And symbolically, just finding that moment within yourself. So finding those moments of, I am grateful for. I think we think a lot about, when I think about gratefulness and harvest and all of that, that really keys a lot on Thanksgiving, of course, here in America. But this is a holiday right here in the older traditions, which encapsulate some of those beliefs, again, around the harvest and around giving thanks. What else can you do during Mabon? So apples and apple spells, that's the last thing, and I've got time enough to talk about that. I try to talk so fast for the videos because I'm trying to get so much information in when I know I only have a short time to get it all done. But yeah, apples are definitely another very traditional food at harvest. No surprise, we've seen the harvest coming in here at this time of year. So there are some apple spells and apple magic that you can do. Now, the apple is considered very special, very sacred as far as the fruit itself to the practitioners of paganism and or Wicca. This is because of when you cut the apple not in half, but in half this away. So if this was the apple and I cut this way and not this way, of course we know you would see the 5-pointed star that is made by the seed pattern inside the apple. And the 5-pointed star is considered sacred to pagan worship. So 5-pointed stars, I kind of fell down a little rabbit hole looking for some more information about that because I just wanted to get it clear before talking about it today to show respect to all of the different belief systems that I talk about. So the 5-pointed star, it can loan itself to other religious concepts and beliefs. But when we're looking at it in connection with paganism and here with the apple rituals that we were going to talk about, we'll get there. The reason that it's considered sacred there, the 5-pointed star is considered representational of the 5 elements. And that's something we've talked about again and again and again here, whether it's talking about tarot, the suits, the majors, the minors, palm reading. We've talked about hand shapes. Again, we'll see the 5 elements come in. So here we see with the topmost point being considered spirit, and then air, water, earth, and fire. So those would be our 5 elements encapsulated in the 5-pointed star as they are notated and worshipped, and or I don't know if worshipped is too strong a word. I would leave that open for my practitioners to fill in. But the point is, it's an important symbol. Apples become a very important symbol. Apples are prevalent here during the harvest. Apples, Pomoda was the Roman goddess of apples. I looked up that information as well, and I was looking at apples and apple lore. And so there are some apple spells. So here's a couple that you might want to do also if they're just fun for you. I don't know. They're interesting. So the first one that I saw, this is more of those who are seeking love. You can take an apple and peel the outside of the apple in one long piece. The idea is to keep the outside as long as possible. And when it falls off the apple, when it gets as long as it can go and it falls off the apple, you let it fall on the floor. Look and see what shape of a letter does it make. That's supposed to be the letter of your beloved or your lover's name. Okay, the next one I also have here in my notes also has to do with the lover aspect. Okay, I don't know. Love and apples seem to go a lot together. Apples, apple trees, apple blossoms. So, what happens for this one? In this one, at midnight, you are supposed to take an apple, cut it into 9 pieces, and begin to eat the 9 pieces in a dark room in front of a mirror. Did you catch all that? So, at midnight, start eating 9 pieces of an apple while looking into a mirror. On the 9th piece, you don't eat it, you're supposed to throw it over your shoulder, and then the face of your lover will appear in the mirror. And if that works, I want you to tell me, because that kind of spooks me out. That reminds me of some of those, like Candyman, which is out right now. I haven't seen it, but I saw the old one, or Bloody Mary, or any of those really Biggie Smalls. No, I'm teasing. Okay, so if you got that joke, give me a like. Anyhow, so yeah, that's another one. You can have the face of your beloved show up in the mirror. I don't believe it. I don't buy it, but maybe I'm just too skeptical. Whatever. Prove me wrong. One other one that I had, oh gosh, what else did I have? Just the eating of the apples as well is considered a blessing, because again, that's bringing in the harvest, bringing in the goodness that you can symbolically as well internalize for your own goodness. And balance. The last thing I wanted to talk about was this is a time of balance. So we talked about spring cleaning. That's a concept we all know well. The idea that at spring we begin to clean and make room for new things in our life. But you can do that in the fall. So as we get ready, and before we were getting ready to be social and go outdoors and start the whole year of the garden and cropping and those concepts, here we reverse that. Here we're beginning to give thanks for our time outdoors. Take a look indoors. What can we do to prepare our space for the time we're about to spend? Symbolically cleaning the hearth is literally a way to take care of the home in a practical as well as a metaphorical way. And those kind of aspects, bringing balance into your life during fall cleaning, is another important way to reset yourself inside. The same way that I get spring cleaning gives me a certain feeling of hopefulness, and anticipation, looking forward to what the summer's going to bring. I feel kind of a quietness when I think about fall cleaning. I think about cocoon concepts, the idea of hibernation and being tucked in and cozy. So make your space extra cozy. Get ready for that. It's a good time. Give thanks. And as always, thank you for joining me here on Destination Unknown. Let's keep listening.